friends. It's truly an honor to be able to speak on behalf of the 2010 graduating class. Although it's only been 4 years, some of us have aged much more than that. As Dr. Testa pointed out to me earlier in the week, some of us show it more than others. Thanks. Going to a Caribbean medical school will definitely do that to me. But I'll tell you this, I would not trade the aging and maturation process that AUC has afforded me for anything. With that in mind, instead of a funny story or a smart allegory, I want to impress upon the 2010 graduating class a call to action, so to say. I'll start with the following quote from a speech given by Theodore Roosevelt in Paris, speaking on the subject of individual citizenship. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, who knows the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows the high achievement of triumph, and who at worst, if he fails while daring greatly, knows his place shall never be with those timid and cold souls who know neither victory nor defeat. 3 words speak to me when I hear that quote: critics, effort, and worthy cause. We've all experienced them here at AUC, and will continue to experience them in our careers and lives going forward. The important thing, however, is not how we are affected by those 3 words, but in how we react to them. Most of us have undoubtedly been bombarded with critics throughout the AUC experience. For some of us, the criticism began when we were unable to gain admittance into a U.S. medical school. We were told by the admissions department we didn't have what it took to become doctors. Fortunately for those of us here today, we didn't give up on our dream, and we pursued a medical degree outside of the U.S. Unfortunately, that was when the critics came out of the proverbial woodwork. Maybe it was a blog, your academic advisors, your classmates, your friends, or maybe even family members or your spouse. No matter who the critic was, you were made aware of the Caribbean stigma. It says that students coming out of the Caribbean are the people who couldn't make it in the U.S. Because of that fact, the schools that accepted them are second-rate, and thus the doctors coming out of them are inferior. That stigma was carried with us through our clinical rotations and will be there on day 1 of residency. How will you react? I don't know where or who the criticism is coming from for each and every one of you, and quite frankly, I don't care. The only critic that matters is you. What do you feel about the Caribbean stigma? Do you feel you're inferior to anyone in terms of your education? I don't, not one bit. But that confidence didn't come easy for me. In fact, it was only just recently during an interview where my confidence actually took hold. The residency program that I was interviewing at was in the top 10 of U.S. News and World Report's best children's hospital. To tell you the truth, I was flabbergasted I even got the interview. The evening before the interview, we were invited to one of the residents' houses for dinner. We do the introductions at the beginning and say where we went to school. All the big name schools were there. As we say in the South, I felt like a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. No chance. The looks from the other interviewees and residents said it all. What is a Caribbean grad doing here? And from some of them, what am I doing interviewing at a place that's considering a Caribbean grad? You can imagine how the rest of that dinner went. But a funny thing happened as I was getting ready for bed in my hotel room that night. You see, I was actually at total peace. Competitive residency programs don't just give out interviews to anybody. They thought I had what it took to be part of their residency program. Even if the fellow interviewees didn't think so, I realized at that moment that I belonged. We belong. Graduating from AUC is no small accomplishment. I believe it takes a lot more effort to navigate the curriculum here than on the mainland. From day 1, each one of you left your comfort zone and arrived in a foreign country not knowing what to expect. That in and of itself shows the determination you had to chase your dream. Great discipline was demanded of us as we kept our heads buried in our textbooks while temptation beckoned from every possible avenue. World-class beaches, sailing, restaurants, nightclubs, casinos, and diving, to name a few of the St. Maarten attractions, were constantly available. Time management skills were a must as we balanced work with play on the island. Once we left the island and moved on to our clinical rotations, adaptability was a new skill we quickly learned. With every move came a new hospital, new computer systems, new attendings, and different viewpoints on education. Being able to experience the different perspectives that each hospital and its doctors put forth has molded us into well-rounded physicians. In the midst of all this chaos, our focus was tested as we had to sit for the first 2 medical board exams. It took a great deal of effort on your part to arrive at this momentous occasion today. Determination, discipline, time management, adaptability, well-rounded, and focus. Those are the characteristics of an AUC graduate, and it shows. We have over 4,000 graduates in nearly every specialty across the US, Canada, Africa, and Lebanon. Our class is one of the most successful, with matches in very competitive specialties such as diagnostic radiology, emergency medicine, orthopedic surgery, neurology, and anesthesiology, as well as some of the top hospitals in the US. No less important are those of us, including myself, who chose the courageous path of primary care. We have worked so hard and sacrificed so much to come to this point in time. Bask in your accomplishment and enjoy the moment. Here and now, you have earned it. But don't just settle for this achievement in your great residency placement. Realize that with the many talents you've obtained here at AUC, you will be more prepared than your colleagues in residency. Having said that, I challenge you to do something extraordinary in your new life as a physician. What will be your worthy cause? Use the passion you have for your particular field of medicine and expound upon it. When you come up with a novel idea or see a need in the community, don't just make it a conversation piece. Act on it. That was Theodore Roosevelt's point. One man can make a difference. He also adeptly points out that you will fail. Things will not always go your way. But as Bon Jovi says, you can't win until you're not afraid to lose. I could go down the list of people who have changed the world. I could mention people like Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, or Nelson Mandela, but you've heard those names before. Let me bring this point a little bit closer to home. One of our own was well on his way to changing the world when his life was cut short. Carl Stockhausen had a passion for people and was committed to finding a way to bring universal health care to all. At AUC, he was president of AMSA, a member of the Student Judiciary Committee, an anatomy teaching assistant, an orientation advisor, and even found time to start a diabetes screening clinic on the island. As a clinical student, he was part of a surgical medical team in Honduras, worked for 3 months in a free healthcare clinic in Guatemala, did an infectious disease rotation in Mumbai, India, and worked in an HIV outpatient clinic in London. While in England, Carl was diagnosed with malignant melanoma. He took a leave of absence, was treated, and went into remission. Carl was well aware of the prognosis of node-positive malignant melanoma. But instead of withdrawing from school and moving back home to be near family and friends, which no one would have faulted him for, he finished his rotations, graduated, and obtained his #1 choice for residency at Einstein Jacobi Medical Hospital as an ER resident. The cancer came back shortly before residency, and he passed away that September. Even after his passing, he continued to make a difference by donating his corneas to the Midwest Eye Bank and his body to the University of Michigan. Carl's bid to change the world might have fallen short, but he was able to change his world and encourage those he left behind. I learned a very important life lesson from Carl. Life is short. We don't know how long we've got. So when you have a chance to make a difference, don't hesitate, just do it. I was there when Carl gave his famous white coat speech. He concluded the speech by speaking of the moment when you first set foot in the hospital as a new resident, with MD next to your name and all this knowledge in your head. He said, but always remember that that doesn't change who you are right now. It only changes the ability you have to change the world. I want to take that a step further because I know you already have the ability to change the world. My question to you is, will you? Thank you.